Hey everyone, welcome to this first Ruletool Academy video on Rule 1 related to the game, the ball, the players and their equipment. So let's get started. The first thing we need to have before we can start to play a game is of course to agree on a set of rules. There are several rule books for American football, as you probably know. We have rules for Pee-wee, the very young players. We have high school rules, NFL rules for the professional league, Canadian football, which is a different type of game, college, NCAA rules and IFAF rules. And because IFAF rules and college rules are used internationally the most, I'll focus on those rule books during this academy. Of course, we also need to have a field to play on. As you can see, I created two diagrams, the NFL field and the field used for NFHS, NCAA and IFAF. As you can see, the fields don't really differ a lot, just the field markings differ, which affects the play a little bit, but other than that the basics are the same. The field measures 100 yards, which is about 91 meters, plus two 10-yard end zones. So those skills are the same for NFL and NCAA IFAF. So let's proceed to the ball we're playing with. There are several types of game balls depending on the age to play. The size of the ball is then different. For NCAA and IFAF, the ball needs to have a stripe at the top ends. The NFL balls do not have a white stripe like that. The ball must be new or nearly new, and they must be inflated to 12.5 to 13.5 pounds per square inch. Depending on the league you're playing, the home team or the organizing team or both teams need to bring or must bring or are prohibited to bring their own game balls. So that's something to check locally. Next slide is related to the players. There are 11 players of each team on the field at one time. Unlimited substitutions are allowed when the play is stopped, so on dead ball. The equipment rules, we're going to cover the equipment rules next. The equipment rules are the same for all players, and the rules differ between mandatory, optional and illegal equipment. So we're going to cover that now. So this is a list of mandatory equipment for IFAF and NCAA. Helmets and face masks are required. The face mask should not be overbuilt. Overbuilt face masks, we're going to cover next, are illegal. The mouthpiece must not be white or transparent, so basically when you're walking on the field everyone can see that you're wearing a mouthpiece. Shoulder pads, the jersey. Over the years a lot of different types of jerseys were developed and the rules were developed accordingly, so are now very specific on what is legal and what is not. We're going to cover that later. Hip pads, tailbone protectors are mandatory. The pants must be in team color and design. Thigh guards are mandatory. Knee pads must be at least a half-inch thick and are strongly recommended to cover the knees. And the Rules Committee has proposed to include a rule that they are mandatory to cover the knees, but that rule will not be implemented this year. And the socks must also be in team color and design. This is a list for optional equipment. Eye shields are optional, but they may not be tinted. Eye shade is optional, but they should not have any text in them, for example for commercial purposes. Hand warmers, towels, game information maybe on the wrist or arm, and gloves. And there are no regulations anymore related to the color or design of the gloves. Now we're going to illegal equipment, and we can divide that between equipment that could endanger other players, confuse or deceive other players, or could provide an unfair advantage. I won't cover all the details. It's of course in your rule book, so have a look at it. Now this is an example, a rule test question. Have a look at number 8. Is that illegal equipment? Is it optional equipment, or is it legal or mandatory equipment? Well, the equipment itself, the backplate, is mandatory, but it's illegal if it's not covered by the jersey. So the answer is it's not legal because the backplate must be covered by the jersey. We covered it before. Overbuilt face masks are now illegal. The rulebook does not provide clear requirements about what is overbuilt and what is not overbuilt or standard, but the rule of thumb is 4 bars under the eyes are legal if you count them. So count the bars, the horizontal bars under the eyes. 4 of them are legal, 5 is probably illegal, and 6 is usually always illegal. Some examples on legal face masks, as you can see here. All of them are either 2, 3 or 4 bars and should then be considered legal. The bottom right face mask has 5 bars but is considered legal. So a question, which of these face masks is illegal? Now, as you may recall, count the bars, so you can probably see that number 3 is overbuilt and therefore illegal. So what is the penalty if a player wears illegal equipment or does not wear mandatory equipment? Then he is required to leave the game for at least 1 down until his equipment is corrected or he is wearing mandatory equipment. There is an exception in the rule saying that if the illegal equipment was caused by play, then he does not have to leave for 1 down, but he needs to correct his equipment before the next play. If a team takes a timeout, they can buy the player back in. So basically, a player normally should leave the game for 1 down, but a team takes a timeout, then the next down the player can participate again. Well, that rule is fine until, of course, we are faced with a whole team wearing illegal jerseys, as you can see the examples here. What happens then? Well, the rule now says that the team is then charged a team timeout at the start of each quarter. So basically, at the start of the first quarter, they are charged a timeout, and then on the second quarter, third and fourth, until they start wearing the correct and legal jerseys. The 2 examples here are illegal because the jersey with number 87 is not contrasting enough, the number, and the size of the jersey number of 18 is not large enough, so illegal. Now remember, the field is 100 yards plus 2 end zones of 10 yards. The sideline and end zone are completely out of bounds. The ball must be new or nearly new. The pressure must be 12.5 to 13.5 pounds. And the equipment rules differ between mandatory, optional and illegal equipment. And the visiting team normally wears white jerseys but may also wear their own team color as long as it's pre-approved or contrasting enough. That's it for equipment. Thanks for watching.